The daughters of Khaine return for the blood of Andy. It's the Andy and Remington Steel Show on a Tuesday night. It's the Andy and Remington Steel Show. Oh, delight. We're talking about Age of Sigmar and everything else that is cool. We're talking about a Warhammer fantasy. It's easy to learn the rules. I said it's the Andy and Remington Steel Show on a Tuesday night. Yeah.
If you've quite finished, well, it is actually a Tuesday night this time, folks, because it is the Andy and Rem Show, episode 96, closing in. I almost said rapidly on 100, but it hasn't been that rapid, has it, the last few weeks?
No, it hasn't. We've been biding our time, waiting for the good stuff, while other shows pour out their malign portents. We, on the other hand, are waiting to give you glory and treasure.
Well, rumour had it, Mr. Remington, that your instrument had actually been gathering dust these past few weeks. Is there any truth behind that?
There's no truth in that. What it's actually been doing is going out to the masses in flesh and blood, rather than through the microwaves of the internet. So yes, I've been touring, gigging, recording, teaching, learning.
There is another rumour that I'd like to put to you as well. And that is that since Christmas, we actually had you cryogenically frozen, which is why you haven't had a chance to take down any of your Christmas decorations yet.
These lights are on all year round, my friend, because that's how I roll.
It's just 24-hour, 365-day a year non-stop party in Chateau de Remington.
Listen, it's non-stop party. We've had to close the doors because there's people trying to come in and seeing what all the fuss is about here. I'm like, give me some privacy, get out my face. This is me time. Yeah. And you time. What happened to your hair?
It mysteriously vanished in some kind of hair clipper related accident.
Why?
Well, the thing with my hair, I just let it grow and grow and grow until all it has to do is annoy me for one day. And then it's just, it's gone.
You were looking like a hero of the mortal realms. And now I think maybe you look like a space marine that hasn't had his adrenaline injections or whatever they call them.
Well, and maybe heroes of the mortal realms are about to take on a new look.
Is that so?
You
know something that we don't, maybe, Andy. What knowledge have you had? Because legend has it. I've heard whispers, that you and one other notable member of the wargaming online community actually are undercover agents for GW.
And where did you hear those rumours?
Well, it's either you or Vincent Venturella. One of you is an agent of chaos. Where? People have been talking about everywhere. It's just you haven't heard because we've had to sort of close you off from that. You know what I mean? To close you off.
Well, we're not at all closed off from our audience tonight. And let's see who we've got in there, shall we?
Exactly.
Let's head over to the participants list, which doesn't sound very exciting, but here we go. The following people have left a comment in the last couple of minutes. Andreas Goodmanson, Andrew Wade, ATL Rabbit. Interesting name. Bazooka J Rambo, BZ Lebowski, Caspian Klassen, Demon _Lizard _from _outer _space, Dice Miniature Paint Guy, Graham Rigg, Joshua Edson, Mark Harvey, Mickey Jenver, Olsbury, Raffle Marge, Raphael something. I'm not going to try to pronounce everybody's name. Some chump named Remington Steele has jumped in there. Skeleton Flower, Slough Witch, one of your personal favourites, Stu Gibson, Thomas, and Newbie. And the list was getting longer as I was reading it. So people are actively commenting away in there. So feel free to join in with the discussion, which we may refer to at times if it stays on topic and isn't hijacked. It's known to occasionally suffer from that, isn't it?
I don't know why you don't let the comments fly in, Andy. It doesn't bother me. I think you're too sensitive.
Well, I'm sure everyone is going to be discussing some very exciting developments in the mortal realms.
You betcha.
So before we get to the juiciest topic, let's look at something on the GW website that I know you in particular are very, very excited about, Mr. Remington. And that is this.
Oh, God.
Malign portents. So let's have a look, shall we? It's a book. Would you like me to read a very colourful description of it to you?
Maybe read the highlights.
Here we go. It began with unsettling dreams and unnatural lights in the sky. Tempers frayed, families fractured, and rulers became irate as their subjects fell to distraction and gossip. There was something in the air, they said. Some malediction that threatened to turn the disquiet into dread. Waking nightmares spread across every land, promising a deathly face or the terror of oblivion. Traders and explorers carried ominous accounts through realm gates, only to find those on the other side bore disturbing stories of their own. This period became known as the time of tribulation, and it was well named. There we go. Has that got you in the mood for some malign portents?
Well, when you say it in that voice at the end, definitely. Everything else just sort of washed over me there. Basically, we saying something's about to happen that's dark and gribbly.
Yes.
Okay.
It's very dark and it's very gribbly. Nagash has hatched a plan to invade Shyish.
Well, let's just do a little rewind. How did Nagash perish in the old world, or did he survive, or did he disappear and has come back again?
Now, aren't you the one that actually read all of the end times?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did, but I didn't read it twice. I'm sure Nagash was... I don't know what happened to Nagash. Well, the whole world blew up, didn't it? So I guess if you're already dead, you can't technically die. So maybe his effigy died, but then he, well, there he is. I can see him in this book.
So his evil spirit lives on, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so Nagash he isn't the model. Well, he is the model, but if he isn't the model, he still exists. Right?
In spirit form. I feel like there's a little piece of Nagash in all of us, but it's mainly the old school clown Nagash.
Yeah, I mean, of all the spirits and effigies you could inhabit, in the olden times, he chose to go into the body of the clown Nagash. It's quite funny.
It could be.
But now he's this giant Hierotitan of a thing, isn't he? Massive.
Well, there is some more information here if you want to know a little bit more about what's actually featured in this book. The Time of Tribulations. So optional rules for the open narrative and match play games. So you can play battles during this time period. It's not the Realm Gate Wars anymore. Now this is what we're on.
Oh.
So you can play games in the Realm of Death with some snazzy new rules by the looks of it. New battle plans. War scrolls for some new characters that fit into this sinister story.
So if I'm not playing a faction that's anything to do with death, right? Let's say I'm playing Free Guild, why would I want to have a battle in the Realm of Death? If it gives you all those advantages, I've got to be crazy.
I don't know.
And if you play Death, wouldn't you just want to play in the Realm of Shyish all the time, right?
In theory.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, do you roll a dice to see what realm you're playing in, or do you just sort of take it in terms for the realms? I don't know. Or are there like giant campaigns in each realm?
Well, you would imagine that all the forces would have to eventually battle in the Realm of Death. Even if just to take down the evil forces that are amassing there.
All right. So basically, you got this game in the Realm of Death, and you roll a dice, and it gives Death faction a bunch of bonuses.
Probably.
Right.
And check this out. Death Battle Tome, Legions of Nagash.
Okay, cool. That looks cool.
So let's have a look at this. See if it shows us anything juicy. No.
Well, it's 5 pages long.
Well, it has 33 war scrolls covering all the miniatures in the legions of Nagash, allegiance abilities, different laws of the dead, battle plans.
Now, as a hobbyist, Andy, the first thing I'm thinking of is what the new figures. What new figures will it have?
Well, will it have any?
Well, I've seen the Knight of the Shrouds.
Well, apart from these things, will there be any new models?
Well, not if they've already released the book, or you know what I mean. Don't you
These...
touch the models before you put the book out?
Oh, we've got some 360 action. Shall we have a look?
Always can never say no to that.
Here we go. Time for some 360. Starts spinning on its own.
Did I ever tell you about my friend Gawain?
I don't think you did.
Not Gawain he was Welsh actually, so he was named after Gawain and the Green Knight, right? And there was this thing called the Gawain 360, and what he used to do is drop his trousers and.
Okay, I think you did tell us about that. Yes.
Oh yeah, he used to do a Gawain 360. That's what we called it.
I'm sure everyone in the audience will be reenacting that tomorrow with their work colleagues. What do you think about this guy?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't like all the gubbins on his face, and I like the mushroom hat, and I love the staff.
I would argue that it's not exactly a hat.
Right, it's his actual head.
It seems to be growing out from inside his head, like his brain was replaced with fungus.
Well, okay, so he's got like vegetation growing out of his head, but how do you grow a metal nose?
I would imagine he has a metal nose transplanted onto his regular nose.
They look like kind of metal snappers, don't they, on his face? Kind of interesting.
They do actually. It looks like something out of Robot Wars. Like it's going to have a bit of a pincer action there.
Now, Andy, do you know, wizards and magic in Age of Sigmar? These wizards, they generally seem to have. They've got the 2 spells, right? They've got Arcane Bolt, Mystic Shield, and then they get like one other spell, right? Do you miss the days where you used to have like a whole selection of spells?
In some ways, yes. In other ways, no. It's quite a complicated issue because the old magic phase was one of the most characterful parts of Warhammer, but it was also the part that slowed the game down the most. And it seemed more like a disconnected mini-game sometimes than actually part of the game. I don't know if you agree with that. So it's definitely simplified and streamlined.
Yes, I agree with that. I mean, I just miss having a selection of spells for different situations.
We've had some excellent comments here, by the way.
Oh, go for it.
Skeleton Flower, referring to that goblin creature, says, too much going on around the face area for my liking. Quite an out-of-character statement there. Let's see, what has everyone else said? Yeah, it seems to be that people aren't sure about the facial region of that goblin. What do you think of this guy?
I'll put it to you straight, right? Just before we move on to the Sigmarite guy. Do you prefer the new that new goblin, the new fungus goblin, Moon Clan, or do you prefer the Forge World one with all the spirits coming out of him?
I actually quite like this direction of goblins being merged with things that they previously were obsessed with. For example, the ones that are half turned into spiders, the scuttlings.
Yeah.
So if the kind of fast troops have merged with spiders, the wizards have merged with mushrooms. I think that's an interesting way to take it.
I bet they thought about merging it with a squig. A goblin and a squig put together.
Well, maybe there will be something like that.
Yeah, that's cool. This one, yeah, he's very lordly, isn't it? I'm not gonna badmouth a character that's got great facial expressions and features, and that moustache, it's very Victorian England, isn't it? It's very like, Boer War general.
It's very, very old world empire.
Yeah, like it.
And for once, you can actually see quite a lot of flesh on this guy as well. He's got his arms highly visible there.
Yeah, I mean, if the armor wasn't gold, he could fit right into a 3 guild army. I reckon.
What do you make of all these then? Do you think you'd be spending £80 to get these 4 models?
What? £80? The £20 each?
They certainly are.
No, get lost. Well, do you get the book with it?
No.
No, I wouldn't be spending £80 on that, man. No.
You get 4 models.
They're great models, but you can buy 2-star collecting boxes for that much, can't you?
But it's a bundle, and it has 4 models in it.
It's a bundle, but they're £20 each, or you can buy 4 for £80.
It's one of those arthritis saving one-click bundles.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
So is that a no from you?
Can you buy them on their own?
Yes, you can. In fact, as you can see, £20, £20, £20, £20.
I think, you know, if you've got like a Chaos Marauder army and you just want something to just finish it off with, and you want the Dracoth War Queen, then yes, okay. But if you're kind of in the middle point of an army, this is exactly the kind of thing that's just going to slow you down. You know what I mean? From actually finishing your objective of finishing armies. And we'll get to that later, Andy, but that's my rant at the minute.
Now, Newbie says, but Rem, it's a one-click bundle. 1 click! In all caps. Just think with 1 click you could flush £80 down the toilet.
Look, I mean, I know there's no denying the quality, but they're like Forge World price models. More than that.
Yeah, I don't think people are going to be rushing to buy that 1-click bundle when it's 4 vastly different characters for different factions. Now, something I've noticed with the new dice that they're putting out now, we used to criticize them for switching whether they had the symbol on the 1 or the 6, didn't we?
Yeah.
But what they've started doing now, by my reckoning, is putting a skull on the 1 and a symbol on the 6, which I think is a vast improvement.
What is that symbol? I can't see what that is.
I don't exactly know what that symbol is. Let's see if they've got a close-up.
Oh, that symbol of death or something. I don't know what that is. It's like a tick. Someone's like a tick in a circle.
It's the official symbol of the malign portents.
I don't know. Whenever I roll a 6, I kind of want like, you know, I want the dice to sort of say Shazam at me, you know.
Well, maybe it's just this particular symbol that isn't particularly grabbing you. But what do you think of the overall change to have a skull and a symbol on there?
I mean, yeah, you could say they're skull dice, so that they could be lucky for me, right?
It depends on your location, though, doesn't it? The look of your skull dice.
Well, yes. If I'm anywhere near Warhammer World, then it's going to be 6s. Anywhere else, it's going to be 1s.
Yes.
That's my special ability. That's my malign portent, isn't it?
Right. There's nothing to look at here. The War Scryer Citadel.
Yes. What about that? Now, this was going out on eBay and second-hand market because it was unavailable. This was selling for hundreds of pounds.
And now it's available to you for £65, unless they've only made 50 of them and then they immediately sell out.
It took me about 6 months to paint the watchtower, which is that bit. You've just gone past it. But it's just that, it took me bloody ages to paint that. Now, as much as I'd like this giant castle, it's going to be a big job to paint it, unless you just get like a grey spray it, you know?
Everything in the Warhammer world always looked so hastily engineered, didn't it? I mean, look at that. That does not look very stable holding up all that rock. It's just wood.
That would send health and safety experts round the twist. Tell you now, there's no way that thing could be legally built.
It's certainly not fit for habitation.
And
if you're going anywhere near this, then legally you must be wearing a hard hat and steel-toed boots at all times.
Well, it's also architectural genius there at the top, isn't it? I mean, it's like someone started it and then someone just decided to like gnaw on the bottom until it.
Maybe that's exactly what happened. Maybe it was just nibbled over time.
You could do a cool diorama, couldn't you? All these like Skaven crawling up from the bottom, like gnawing away. But yeah, what do you think? You like it?
I think it's pretty damn tasty.
Yeah. Have you seen it in real life?
I probably have at some point, but I don't recall.
That is massive. I can tell you now. That's going to take up like a quarter of your table.
I would question the practicality of it in a game, but in terms of purely aesthetics, then it definitely fits the bill, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it's nice. I mean, all we need now is for the Marienburg landship to come back on the market. Then my world will be complete.
People are itching for that to come back. Right. I think we've delved into this deeply enough for now. So, are you prepared for something that has you legitimately excited, unlike this stuff, which just has you kind of lukewarm, perhaps? Are you ready?
Yes.
Boom.
Wow.
It's clearly an Aelf. It's clearly very dark. Thoughts?
A little bit static, but beautiful sculpture.
This particular one a little bit static, but what do you make of the overall look of the Daughters of Khaine?
I love it. I love it. I mean, do you think she's like massive?
Massive-ish, I would say.
Yeah. What, like bigger than just a normal elf?
Probably bigger than an elf from previous editions, I would say, but not enormously huge. Probably standing on something.
Not like an avatar sized.
No, I don't think she's that big. But look at this, though. There's blood dripping off the wings.
I mean,
so how does that get there?
It reminds me of like quite churchy. You know, it's a bit like she's got church gates for wings.
If the gates to heaven look like that, then I think people will be sinning all the world over right now, trying to get into hell instead.
Yeah, I don't know about the blood drips. That's yeah, she must have dipped them in a big creature or even a cauldron. So yeah, I love it. It's I've got the old Morathi model, and she is really fiddly to paint. I mean, it didn't help that I dropped her, and my chair, which was on wheels, ran over her face, and then so I had to paint up a mashed face. This model, it's just clear, beautiful, sleek, elegant. It's yeah, she's absolutely stunning. And
right, I'm going to tell you what some of the people are making of this, actually, because the comments are flooding in as we speak. So Mickey Jinver says, "So awesome, I want her." I can imagine Mickey doing an excellent job painting one of these. So we can look forward to that. See, Stu Gibson says, "Gorgeous, gorgeous models." Danny Ashby says, "I love them." Another Dark Aelf fanatic there among the audience. And apparently, there may be two forms to this being we're looking at here. Could be one larger, monstrous one.
Yeah.
Interesting. Let's go to the next image.
Yeah,
that's a little less static for you, isn't it, this one?
I love it. A lot of people used to make Beastmen harpies out of wings of 40k Eldar models, and those wings looked very much like those. I think GW's taken the hint and used that style of wing for like their new sort of harpyish model, which are these. They look awesome. I mean, there's going to be once you've got the full range, you can do loads with these. You can use those. You can use that head as a normal witch elf, and you could put Sisters of Slaughter head on these. Yeah, I think they're great. Love them. I'm thinking you probably get what five of these babies in a pack.
You would imagine. How do you think they stack up compared to the old school harpies that are also known as the most hideous miniatures ever made, other than the Fellbat?
Yeah, I mean the old ones look like they probably had hairy armpits.
And you're thinking these ones don't.
No, these are very sort of. I think they're very like beauty conscious, aren't they? These ones.
Certainly more so than the really old school harpies. They kind of like beastmen, weren't they? The really old harpies.
Yeah,
You remember those?
I do. Yeah, they were like really sort of kind of stocky-ish, weren't they as well? Yeah, that is. So, do you think they're going to be called harpies, or are they going to be called
I
like?
I would suggest they'll have a different name. Maybe it's like harpies. Just an
Yeah,
extra letter thrown in there.
I mean, speaking of converting, I mean, you could go full like Quetzalcoatl and put like the snake body and the wings on one of the witch's bodies. So it's like she's like a flying snake girl.
It's interesting that these are new models that look as though they fit in perfectly with the previous Dark Elf models, so they'll be ripe for kit bashing, won't they, and conversions.
I think that's the biggest plus with these girls, definitely. The thing that's been going around the comments on Age of Sigmar page and the fan page is that how come witch elves are so expensive? I think they're like £35 for 10.
Something like that.
That's quite a lot. I mean, you can buy this. You can buy the same amount of judicators for that price. The judicator, you can buy or liberators or something. Well, two wound models anyway. But I don't know. They are great models, and fairly easy to paint, as you'll see, because I've sent you some of my pictures.
Yes, we'll look at your freshly painted Dark Aelves shortly.
I love this. I think what they've done, they've got witch elves as battle line. They've obviously got heroes, and they're thinking, right, what do they need now? They need some shooting, and they need some flying. Right? So I think they're covering all the bases.
There's another one.
Yeah, I love the shields. I think I prefer to see a woman's face.
I imagine these are an alternate version of the same unit that have masks.
Yeah.
Armed in a different way.
Yeah.
I mean, the previous ones, they've got kind of these little short blades, and these ones have the longer spears.
Right. So do you think they'll have like a throwing your spear attack? Maybe they're the ones where they've got like
they could be like javelins.
Yeah, love it. Mean, those heads, those mask heads, they also look great if you put them on executioners. Just saying.
And look at this, snake elves. Half elf, half snake, with bows. Very Medusa-like.
Yeah, it's not often that Games Workshop, sculpt quivers with like loose arrows in like that you can see and paint. And they're just, I don't think they're just like normal sized arrows. I think they're like bolt thrower sized bolts, arrows. I think they're going to be like Colonel Hunters. You know what I mean?
I do.
I love them.
And look at this, another alternative for those models, no doubt.
Yeah.
The close combat version of the sneaky people.
Is she holding a heart in her hand?
It does look like somebody's heart, actually, yes. I can distinctly make out a heart there.
Well, my brother's a fitness expert. He said that if you are, a meat eater, the best parts of the animals to eat, if you're going to do that, are the organs. Heart, liver, kidneys. Really good for you, so he says.
Well, maybe they're going to be the healthiest faction there is.
Well, they certainly look healthy, don't they?
Let's put it this way, they're certainly not vegans.
No. I tell you what I do love, Andy. This is the thing. I had a little brainwave last night, and I phoned you before, didn't I?
You did.
Today, all excited, and then I couldn't remember what I phoned you for. It's just come back to me. If you look at her helmet, can you see they're all snakes?
Yes.
And if you go back to the other snake woman, yeah, look, all the bows are like snakes as well. Can you see? Look at the top
So
of the
they are
clothes.
very snake themed.
Yeah. Yeah, very.
So what was this genius idea then?
Well, that was it. It's all a bit. It's all snake themed, isn't it?
I wouldn't give it the $1 million idea title.
No. It's a stunning observation. It's not a $1 million idea, but
Here's something for you to observe. You see all the blood that's all over all of these models. How there's just random parts that you think, wait, that looks a bit red. Oh yes, it's just blood everywhere. So do you think this army will have the word blood in it more often than the Khorne Bloodbound?
that's a great question. Or will it have snake references, like the Sliver Queens?
The Slither Queens. That sounds like a band that would be opening for you when you're a headliner.
That's not nice, Andy. Yeah, you're very nasty sometimes. Where's the respect?
Come on, I've just said that you could be headlining there.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I get to headline with Sliver Queens.
Yes, you do.
What else could you say? You could have the Adder Rattle Elves. No, that's not so good.
Rattle elves, oh dear.
The Sneak Attack. Skeleton Flower.
Sneak Attack.
The Poison Chalices. No, I'm clutching at straws here. Yeah, maybe they're going to go back to blood, aren't they? Definitely.
Yeah, there's going to be lots of references to blood. Blood, wrath, fury.
Yeah, Blood Queens.
Now, what about this? We haven't seen the full model here, but this is just a tiny piece that looks like it's slithering around something.
Oh, let me put it on your page. Yeah, now this is like people are saying this is the alternative version of Morathi. So you can either make her as sort of the Amazonian blood sliver queen, or you can make her into this sort of the snake avatar version. Or maybe they're just two different models. We don't know for sure yet, but we're thinking this is going to be massive, right?
We are thinking that, yes. They only showed us a tiny piece of it, which suggests it's going to be slightly bigger than a Nurgling.
So when you watch the trailer videos for this faction, Morathi's she's talking and she gets very emotional, and she's like saying, no longer will I stand in the shadows, and I've been tortured by this sort of being, and I've had enough now. And it's almost like she's melded into some kind of Slanesh and Khaine as well, So she's become like a sliver queen. There's no other word for it. Sliver queen.
By the way, Danny Ashby says, yeah, it's Morathi. You can see her spear.
Right.
Let's have a look if that's exactly the same spear. There's the spearhead.
Yeah.
And there's the spearhead.
Interesting.
I think, or is that the spearhead?
Yeah. She's got a barbed tail as well. That's going to hurt, isn't it? That catches you.
Oh, she says not in that shot. So it must just be on the video. You can see the spear. Right. But yes, this will be the giant version of Morathi.
Yeah. Now, I'm thinking conversions here. If you don't want to make her into the Sliver Queen, you could use the snake bit as like a body or a tail for like a converted Hydra, couldn't you?
The conversion possibilities look endless, considering the range of models already available to those Dark Aelf fanatics out there.
Yeah. Now, I think this is going to be quite an elite army. And I say elite, basically, I mean, it's going to be quite expensive to build. Unless they kind of do a crazy deal with some kind of box pack for them. But I'm thinking this could be like prime prices right here.
So, Mr. Remington, as our resident Dark Aelf expert, I'm sure during the end times you were following their fate carefully. Some people weren't pleased that they kind of got lumped in with all the other elves.
Yeah.
So, how do you feel about the transition from the way the Dark Elves were in the old world, and as you've no doubt been playing them in Total War Warhammer 2,
yeah,
through to the end times, and now their re-emergence?
Mm-hmm. Well, basically, what happened was that the whole Dark Elf faction originally came out of, they thought that Malekith was the rightful heir of Anarion. He was the rightful Phoenix King, and he should be ruling all of the elves. But he was cheated, and so the faction was cast out and they had to live a bitter life in the sort of northern, cold, icy lands, miles away from Ulthuan. And they didn't just survive, but they thrived. And to do that, they had to become quite evilish, and taking slaves and being sort of quite vicious, and always plotting ultimate revenge. And as you know, they manipulated the dwarves into becoming the enemy of the elves, and millions of elves and dwarves died in the war.
That's just a rumor. Nobody manipulates dwarves.
In the War of the Beard. But yeah, in the end times, basically, it became just a battle, literally, of the survival of all their races. So, although the Dark Elves, they wanted revenge, there was a sort of a peace which happened because Malekith, he got married to the High Elf Queen, and so it kind of sort of united them in a way, and that's how they sort of became combined-ish. Matter of survival, I'd say, rather than forgiveness. So how were they in the new world? Well, it's not really clear. Hopefully, this book is going to tell us more. But Morathi, the mother of Malekith, she was sucked into chaos itself, and she was pulled in by Slaanesh. And so we know that she didn't die, but she was taken away from the world. So this is her re-emergence, if you like. Does that answer your question?
I think it does. She's been hiding long enough in the shadows, as the video pointed out. And that video showed us another interesting point as well, in that Games Workshop seems like they've finally hired a second voice actor. Because it always seems to be the same one guy doing the voiceover on every single video they've ever done.
Yeah, why couldn't
every kind of cinematic video, it always has the same guy's voice on it.
It really should be you, Andy, shouldn't it? You should be doing these voiceovers.
Well, I wasn't going to say anything, but I think the public have spoken. It should really be me, shouldn't it?
Speaking of YouTube videos, right, here's the other light bulb moment that went off my head. It's just come back to me again now. Now, what happened was I looked on the Daughters of Khaine video that Games Workshop put up last week, and off the top of your head, without looking, how many views do you think it's had?
I'd say 150,000.
150,000?
Yes.
Well, that's quite a lot, isn't it?
Yes.
That's a lot. It's actually had about 130,000, and that's rising steadily, right? Now, if you look at an older video showing, at the time, they were new Dark Elves with the crossbows and the bleak swords, right? What was it, about 4 years ago now? 5 years ago? Since they brought out any new Dark Elves?
And you want me to guess how many views those videos had?
Yeah. Bearing in mind, they're now 5 years old.
I would say 42,000.
Yeah, you're about there. You're about there. So what does that tell us? Does that tell us more people are watching YouTube than they were 5 or 6 years ago? Or Age of Sigmar is more than twice as popular as Warhammer 8th edition?
I would say the main reason would be that GW have seriously stepped up their YouTube game since then. And a lot of people are drawn to the YouTube channel that they have now and all their other social media outlets with the daily painting tips and all that kind of stuff that they put out regularly. So that's probably the main factor. There's just more eyeballs potentially seeing it on their subscription feed. But also, I would say a piece of it would be that there are more people probably interested in Age of Sigmar than there were in the old world, at least with a financial interest in it. since they haven't blown up Age of Sigmar and replaced it with something else yet to make it more profitable, like they did with the previous world.
Now, I propose that GW may actually be, there might be some geniuses working there, because in a way, they've got loads more attention to themselves through something like Total War. And when the Total War sort of blows over in a year or two, when they bring out Total War 3, what are those fans going to look for? You know, they love this game and they're going to check out all this new GW stuff because it's all related, aren't they? So maybe they've got the gaming crowd sort of more on the radar of Games Workshop now.
Well, I do think the timing of the Dark Elves re-emerging is interesting, since Total War Warhammer 2 prominently features them, and that hasn't been out for that long, has it? So it's the first time you could look at it and say that perhaps there's a little bit of thought going on there, and that maybe they think the interest in Dark Elf properties is skyrocketing. So let's get these guys ready to go at a specific time. It could just be a 100% coincidence, but you never know what's going on in the inner workings.
It could be just like a marketing thing. I mean, you can pay to get more views, you know, by sponsorship, ads, and whatnot. So it could be a bit of that going on, but I don't know. I think it's really encouraging sign. If you look at it, if you think it's organic views, as in they're actually real views and views that people are just sharing organically, then it's pretty phenomenal. The amount of interest that's had. You know, that's one faction, and within a week, the trailer for it has had over 100,000 views. Oh, that's brilliant. Isn't it? And
It certainly is.
You think if 10% of that buy into it, actually buy some of those models, that's 10,000 sales there.
Is it safe to assume that this is going to reignite any potential kind of malaise that you were in? Is this going to get you back in the Age of Sigmar saddle firmly? You're going to be jumping right into these Dark Aelves, snapping them all up immediately.
Well, I made a vow, Andy. I made a holy vow, all right, that I would not buy any more models until I had painted all the models I had, or I would only buy things I needed to complete armies.
And how far through that process are you now?
I'm doing really well, to be honest. I've done my Savage Orcs. I've done my Orcs and Goblins. I've done my Dark Elves. I've painted up a free guild / Divert the Sigmar army. And all this has been in the past 8 months. I've really just focus on one thing. So yeah, we've not been doing many videos. I've not been playing many games. But I've been painting like a demon. And I just want to get, I went through a phase of thinking I'm going to sell some of my armies, and I might well do that. But I don't like doing things half-assed. I want to be able to showcase a whole finished army and go, well, if I want to sell that, someone else can enjoy that and enjoy it as it was meant to be. Do you get my drift? So
yes,
I just want to sort of complete it, so become a completionist, if you like. And so, it's just unbelievable timing, really. The last 2 months, I've decided to sort of finish off my Dark Elves, which were 2/3 finished. Half of them were just in a box still. I had 15 Corsairs in there, 6 Blackguard, 10 Executioners, Dark Riders, la la la. And I thought, right, I'm going to do this. And I did them 1 unit at a time. And I've just about done. I've got a few Mengel Manhides Manflayers to paint, old school. And then I've done them, and they're all nicely based. Then the quandary is that they're all square based, because that's how they were when I started the army.
Shall we have a look at the miniatures that you've painted recently, by the way?
Let's have a look. No way. Is anyone really listening to us gabbering on anyway? They're just sitting there painting, aren't they? They like the sound of the voice.
Talk us through some of this.
Okay, now would you believe me if I told you these look better in real life?
I'd be skeptical.
Well, take away that skepticism, Andy. They look way better in real life. I'm not the best. I need to get a light box, don't I?
You need to hire Mickey Genver to come and photograph all your miniatures.
Yeah. Well, she needs to actually step up to the plate and actually do something for me for once, because I've done a lot for her. I really have. If she's listening, I recorded a free theme tune for her, which she doesn't really use anymore. But anyway, so these girls were on round bases, and I got my clippers out, and I chopped them into square bases. Kind of looks all right, I think. Yeah, I just finished them off, and I did the flipping it. What do you call it? The sort of hero elf, dark elf in the middle. Did the tattoos. Love them. You need 20 though, really, for these to actually be sort of effective.
And is this how many you have in total right here?
Of that style, I've got 25 of the old style Dark Elves, which aren't photographed here, but they're all metal, and they look about half the size of these girls. So, yeah, there you go. Now, this was, I had like bits and bobs, and I put them together to make a kind of a unit of executioners. So you got old style executioners, some new ones, and some sort of two of the guys that you get in the Dark Elf Kobold Chariot. I've made them into sort of members of this unit. I think it looks pretty fruity.
It does. It's quite colourful, isn't it?
Mm.
Next.
Oh yeah, okay. So with the Hydra / Charybdis pack, you get two like poker elves, Beastmasters. I thought, well, if I stick one on a Manticore, then you've got a Manticore Beast Rider there, which is pretty solid in the game. So yeah, that's that. I don't even know if this has even got a war scroll anymore.
Is that Manticore plastic?
Yes. Yeah.
And I see there's a terrified little peasant down on the floor there.
Yeah. Do you know the giant pack, the giant box set? You get all these loads of bits and bobs. So you get that guy, and you get a cage. I painted the cage, and I've glued the cage, and now I can't fit him in the cage. I want to put him in the cage. So, yeah, I literally just painted that guy last night. So I'm probably just going to stick him on loads of models every time I paint a monster. I'm going to stick him there somewhere.
Next.
Yeah, there's me Dark Riders. They, yeah. What can you say? Pretty cool.
Very descriptive there.
Mm.
Pretty cool indeed. How do you feel about painting horses?
I don't like painting horses. I've decided. I don't like it.
I don't like it either. It's when you actually get down to it, it's not that difficult, but it seems like it's an uphill struggle when you're just staring at an unpainted horse. It's not as straightforward as painting something else. When you're painting naked animal flesh that's dark in colour, it's somehow different from painting anything else for me.
I think if you're gonna, black is the easiest colour to paint them, because you literally just do the black undercoat or base coat, and you just a few grey highlights, and you're done. I think the key to horses is don't overdo them. I remember I painted a unicorn white, and I went through so many shades of brown to cream to white, and it weren't really doing anything. I think you've got to be quite brave and literally just pick out the highlights. And the highlights may stick out a lot close up, but from far away, they're much more effective. So you just got to trust that.
Apparently, Danny thinks there's something unsettling about the way I say naked animal flesh. I'll have to make that my catchphrase now. And finally.
Okay, so I had like 8 repeater bolt thrower guys, and no, 8 dark shards. Yes, dark shards, and I had 8 dark spears. Is it? But there wasn't enough to make a whole unit of each one, so I've just put them together in one unit. So they can be either or.
This one here seems to be shouting something into the boss's ear.
Yeah, he's saying, "Can you move your shield, please? Because I can't get a good shot off here."
This one seems to be shouting as well, like, "Hey, get this banner out my face. Oh wait, it's me that's carrying it."
Yeah, and I don't know who put lipstick on it, but yeah, maybe he's
That is lipstick, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know why I did that.
Did they have time to be applying lipstick pre-battle?
Well, Dark Elves are sort of prima donna-ish, aren't they? They're ones that they love themselves, just slightly less than High Elves. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Right. Do you want to see what I've been painting now? It's not potentially Warhammer related, but it is fantasy miniature related.
Go on then.
Undead halflings.
Oh, could you want to just tell us a bit more about these? Like, Andy, how did you get these?
I got this undead halfling army for promotional reasons.
What you mean? You got given them for free? There we go.
Unsolicited, mind you.
Seems fair. Seems fair.
Yes.
A whole army.
Well, it's probably about half an army. So I will have to buy some to complete the army. I've got the rest of the units on the table in front of me here.
So why did they decide to make a dead halfling army? Why not a halfling army?
Well, you know of Mr. Majestic Feet on YouTube, don't you? And his love for all things halfling, and he has about 10 zillion halfling models and old school armies of all kinds.
Yeah.
Well, one day he decided, you know what, there aren't enough halfling models out there, and there certainly aren't enough undead halfling models out there, so I'm going to go and pay someone to sculpt undead halflings, and that's what he did.
Who did he ask to sculpt them?
They were all sculpted by Bob Ollie.
The Bob Ollie, one of the most famous old school GW Citadel designers ever.
Yes, the same.
That's phenomenal. What do they like to paint?
Well, the way I've painted them, they were actually very easy because I've used quick shade on them.
Right.
Because I want to get the whole army done quickly and spend most of the effort on making the bases look pretty. I'll show you some different angles there so you can see. Look at the shininess on those pound shop water effects.
That's wicked. So what is this for Kings of War then?
This army will be used for Kings of War, yes.
Well, it could be. I think I mentioned it before. We should have a halfling battle. My living halflings against your dead ones.
We certainly should.
How cool would that be? And maybe we could do it as a Ninth Age battle or an 8th edition battle or something. Or even Kings of War. I don't mind.
There they are from above as well.
Nice.
And I've tried to make the bases a bit more adventurous than usual. Normally I only go for one colour of grass, but there are several different colours going on here and all different kinds of tufts, most of which, the grass tufts and little flower tufts, I've actually got in kind of tournament goodie bags, usually. They give you things like that in there, and I just put them to one side and think, maybe I'll use them one day. And I thought, well, why don't I just whip them all out now and use them on this army?
Tournament goodie bags?
When you go to a tournament, sometimes there's a goodie bag if it's a particularly nice tournament, and it has, you know, like party things in there, like little packets of sweets, like you would if you were going to a children's birthday party. But then there are slightly more grown-up things in there, like wound counters and that kind of thing you might find in there.
I haven't been to a birthday party since my 11th birthday party when I made Helen Thompson cry.
And how did you do that? Did you perform a 360?
I can't remember. She came to my house and we were playing Pass the Parcel or something, and I can't remember. I made her cry. Ever since then, I've never had a party. Yeah.
So it wasn't the 360, was it? Perhaps the 1 in 100.
The 1 in 100. That's just for special occasions. That one. That's. I don't even know if I can even do that anymore.
Okay, we won't ask you to try live on the air.
No. But yeah, that's so. How many more of these Gribblies have we got?
Well, let's see. I can actually show you some of the units now. I've got another unit of archers here, coming along nicely.
Yeah.
Into the base. Then I've also got cavalry. Got 2 units of those.
Oh wow, I like them.
Undead halfling cavalry. Can't go wrong with that.
It's a bit blurry still, Andy.
It is, but if people want to see in more detail, then I've actually got a separate video on this army as it's coming along, if they want to see that. And there's some nice solid infantry there. One of them with a gigantic shield.
Oh, cool.
It's difficult to see them too much since they're only primed in white.
That shield design is very reminiscent of Bob Ollie's dwarves that he painted. It's quite rare and quite expensive to buy in the second-hand market now. It's great. He must be in his 60s now, that fella, right? 70s.
He must be getting on a bit, yes, because he was one of the really old school sculptors, and he still sculpts the same way. I don't think he's going to be switching to digital sculpting anytime soon.
I wonder how it works when you commission someone to paint to sculpt an army. Do you like? Is it like a one-off payment, or do they get like a cut of royalties?
I think that would be down to your negotiating skills.
Well, I'd probably need your help there, Andy, because you seem to just get everything for free.
Well, are you thinking we should try and fund an Andy and Rem range of miniatures?
That'd be amazing. Like you could have like the Forest of Rem miniatures. You could have Witch Coven. You could have Pirates of Sartosa.
Well, would you like to be even more jealous? Because here in my hand, I have a bag of undead orcs.
Do you want to just explain how you come across that big hunk of metal?
Well, these 3 or 4 bags of undead orcs was all sent to me also by the same guy the other day.
How did you do it, Andy? I mean, I've been talking to that guy. We've been like, loving each other's videos off and whatnot. And do you just ask? I bet you just ask flat out, don't you?
It's completely unsolicited, and I can tell you that it's entirely because he wants his miniatures featuring in Kings of War battle reports.
Right.
That's the target market he's going for, Kings of War battle report viewers.
Well, you've just given him double bubble, because this is the #1 AOS show on the planet. This is the original and still the best. It's gone out to hundreds, nay thousands of potential buyers.
And the Kickstarter for the cavalry for the halfling undead army has just finished, and that's successfully funded. But if you go on the page and send him a message, then I'm sure you can order some still at this stage.
Check out his videos as well. He's just got a phenomenal amount of miniatures. They're cool.
Right, speaking of phenomenal miniatures, shall we look at some of the painting of the community? We've got a few here that we can look at.
Yes, let's.
So let's start with this one from Caspian.
Nice.
This is a type of model that you will be familiar with.
It's a Thunder Tusk.
Yeah, so you've got a nice ogre army, haven't you?
Love it. Yeah. Yeah. Very proud of that army. This is really cool.
I'm not sure about his background. I think it could do with it a nice neutral sheet there. This is kind of a Remington style background, isn't it? With maybe bits of laundry sneaking in there.
I don't know. That looks like inside of a prison. You've got the bars there.
I don't think they would allow something this pointy in a prison. That's potentially lethal.
If I was ever in jail, like for years and years, it wouldn't be so bad if I was allowed to paint models.
I would suggest that you wouldn't be allowed to. A paintbrush can easily be sharpened into a prison weapon.
Uh-huh. Is that a spider? Oh, that's like a frost spider on the
There is a little spider crawling along in the ice there.
It could be like an octopus then. Speaking of fish stuff, this is great model, by the way. Thanks for submitting it. Why do GW poke fun at the idea of fishmen? It would be an awesome army. Mermaids, mermen, trident fishmen, and weird shell-like lobster monsters.
Are you referring to that image that popped up?
I am.
A GW presentation with Battletome fishmen in the background.
Yeah, why is it so funny? It's like totally original. They'd have the IP on it and everything.
Did you ever paint those fishmen, by the way, that I sent you?
No, I've still got them. They're on the list. They're on my bucket list, Andy. They are quite small, though, aren't they? But yeah, they're on the bucket list. Don't worry. But I think the obvious question is, why would they be fighting on land when they could be perfectly happy in the undersea kingdoms? But
if you've watched Star Wars Episode 1, then it's not that difficult to persuade underwater people to come out and fight. That's hopefully going to be the only time I reference that film.
I think they're going to do it. They've got to do it somewhere in the future. It's totally some kind of faction that's water-based is what I'm saying. Because they've got Sky, they've got like fire volcano, like, you know, with the dwarves. They've got like plains and savage orcs. They've got jungles with like Seraphon. They've got mountains with the dwarves, right? They've got underground with the Skavens.
How about, instead of a water-based army, how about a water-soluble army?
What does that mean?
I don't know, they'd end up like the Wicked Witch of the West, wouldn't they?
What, like I'm melting?
Yeah, you just splash water on them and they just dissolve. Thoughts?
Is that meant to be a joke? It was, wasn't it? I can tell.
No thoughts then?
No, just tumbleweed.
It's up there with the edible army idea. As soon as a model dies, that not $1 million enough for you?
Not $1 million, nowhere near $1 million. And do you know what? Talking $1 million ideas, Andy, there's been a bit of negativity surrounding my recent $1 million posts. All right, let's just.
Well, didn't you try and pitch batch painting as $1 million idea?
Absolutely, but painting in like you have. Listen, you all got the wrong end of the stick. Of course, everyone knows batch painting is a very efficient and effective way of painting an army, right? But the $1 million idea I had was to create an actual batch that you could put the models in to batch paint. So, you know, I've done the prototype there with an actual egg box, but what if it actually fitted models into the things, you know? Like you've got the single figure holder, haven't you, that GW sold out of and you can't even buy it anymore. But what if it was like an egg box and it held like 6 models at a time? You could batch paint like that. $1 million idea, bam.
You mean kind of like the way I'm painting 12 models at the same time on this base?
Yeah, that's quite ingenious. Well done.
Okay then. Glad we've got that one cleared up. Okay, let's have a look at another miniature. This is from Josh, and this is I'm not even sure whether to call it bagpipes, because it's some hideous monstrosity, some kind of pipes that are being used in a musical fashion by this hideous Nurgle beast.
I love this guy. I love him. What a cool idea. Now, if you scroll back at some older posts, this fella put a little video up of this guy before he was painted, and he was like, he made him into a giant bong with like smoke coming out of his haggis bagpipes things. It was pretty cool. So seeing the finished result here, wow, what a cool idea. I mean, he looks like a giant rotten piece of meat, doesn't he? Like a giant lamb joint or it's gone off.
It's fallen down the back of the sofa. And you find it 6 months later.
It is
delicious.
I've never wanted to sort of paint a Nurgle army. I don't know. Lots of people like it. I don't like the thought of having a load of models that are just basically putrid flesh. But maybe I should start one. I mean, are they really fun to paint?
A lot of people love painting Nurgle because really you're not constrained by the typical things that you would be when you're painting anything else. There's very few rules when you're painting something that's just supposed to look disgusting and horrible and putrid. You can kind of go nuts with all kinds of different techniques. As long as it looks horrible, then you can't lose.
Right. Yeah.
So if you're a really good painter, like this guy clearly is, then you can make it look incredible. But also, if you're not a very good painter, you can still make disgusting Nurgle models look very passable. So it's something for all skill levels. Oh, by the way, we should say hello to Alan Haynes 1427, who is a first-time viewer of one of our live shows.
Welcome, Alan. Welcome. I don't know where you've been all this time, but you're finally here.
He's probably wondering where we've been all this time, to be honest.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, we haven't been out much recently. But yeah, hope you're loving the show, man.
And now, this is a work in progress from the legendary Sam Jones.
Sam Jones. I never realised what a quality painter you were until recently. Some of your posts have been absolutely stunning. Look at that. That's like heavy metal standard, isn't it? That's just like you see in the White Dwarf magazines.
And it's not even finished yet. Let's see if we can pick out what's not finished here, other than the fact he doesn't have a left hand.
The base?
Well, the base, obviously. I think, the scroll there coming out of his armpit. I don't think that's finished. That's quite dark looking, isn't it?
Now, if I put my Sherlock Holmes hat on, I would suggest that this model has been sprayed from above with white spray
Is that a patented Remington technique?
to pick out the highlights. No, it's something that I can't remember. Is it all acetol? Don't know what you call it. Someone will say it. Vincent Venturello is always banging on about how you need to spray your models white from above, and that way you know where the highlights are going to be.
Zenithal highlighting?
Yeah, sorry, yeah, I don't know why I said acetol. Yeah, zenithal highlighting. Why is it called zenithal? Why isn't it just like called white spraying or something?
Well, it's the zenith, isn't it?
Zenithal.
Are we getting too complicated now?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, but yeah, I'll have to try that someday. It looks, it seems to be effective.
Oh, look how many people typed it into the chat as well.
So, what is everyone
People
doing?
were really quick to give you the answer there. That just shows how wonderful and supportive this community is, even when your memory lets you down.
Wow. Yeah. And maybe Sam Jones is actually working for Games Workshop. Didn't he turn up? Didn't he turn up at Warhammer World when we were playing a game? Just out of nowhere and shouting Remington.
Yes.
Interesting.
He definitely did turn up in the middle of our game, and I don't feel that he really put across precisely who he was at the time, because otherwise we would have dropped what we were doing and demanded painting tips from him. But speaking of Warhammer World, we're thinking of heading there sometime soon, aren't we, for a game? Getting back into the swing of things.
Yes, sir, next week. I mean, the only question is, what army do I choose to take out of, all the quality in my possession? I don't know. I think you're going to struggle, Andy, because you've just sold your character on Overlords.
Well, that's not entirely true. I was thinking about selling all my character on Overlords, and I've realised now that I can't possibly part with the ones that I've actually painted. Because I think selling painted miniatures is like selling your own children into slavery. I would equate those two things 100%. I just can't bring myself to do it. But I did list some of the unpainted or partially assembled and partially painted ones on eBay, because the army isn't motivating me to complete it at the moment, and it was being more of a drag sat on my painting table. So,
have you got enough to play with that has been painted?
I've got 3 units and a hero.
Have you got a ship?
No.
Oh.
So I might sell them, because at the moment I can't see a time in the future when I will feel like getting around to painting more of them. So I've sold a single unit, which I did get a very good price for, though. It was the unit of the Thunderers with the ether cannons, which obviously someone didn't feel like trawling through eBay finding the individual parts and just thought, you know what, I'll pay a premium to pay for this unit that's already got all the weapons I want in it. I don't have to do any assembly, and they're already undercoated. So that's nice.
That's cool. I mean, my mum said something to me the other day. She said, like, we're all going to die at some point, right? And so, what's the point of having all these armies? What's going to happen to them if we pass? So you can't get too attached to things in this world, can you? At the end of the day, I can't bring myself to sell them, but I need to. But then, again, it's like I was thinking, what's the most that an army would sell for? Maybe like money could really tempt me. And I looked on eBay, and I went to completed listings, and I put Warhammer Army in. And the most expensive army that's been sold in the last few months, it's like, I don't know, £1,000, £1,200. A lot of money. And then I got a phone call today offering us a concert, and I could do a concert and earn the same amount of money in 1 hour. Now, I'm not trying to like show off, and that doesn't happen all the time for me, but I could do one show and earn the same amount of money as what it would take me a year of love, sweat, and tears painting a whole army. You know what I'm saying?
The amount of effort that you put into an army, unless you are a top level professional who can paint quickly and ridiculously well, you're never going to get that same reward back financially at the end of it. It just doesn't happen, especially if it's something that you've painted on your own and then try to put it out there into the marketplace, because people want armies painted in a very specific way, and the chance of finding someone willing to pay a fair price and also wanting the army painted in exactly the way you've done it is very, very slim. If you had an army that was just completely blank and you offered out your services and said, I will paint an army to your specifications for this price, that'd be one thing. But I think once they're already done, it's weird how all that effort being put into them devalues them.
Well, even if they're painted superbly.
If they're painted superbly, it does help.
What if they're painted like really nice?
If they're painted just nicely, you'll probably get more than you paid for them, but you'll never get enough to compensate you for all those hours that you've slaved over the paintbrush.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. So yeah, I don't know. Or these are going to sit in a box. You know what I mean? They're going to just sit in a box for years.
If you're never going to use them, then you should let them go. If you are sure that you're never going to use them, which is how I felt about the Caradron Overlords that I haven't even painted. And if I really get back into them and want to start that army over again, I can just buy the models again.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you.
It's not a case of selling a fully painted army and having to spend another 6 months working on it again if you suddenly get the itch to play with it again.
So, you know, bearing in mind, I've won many times against you, Andy, despite my lower IQ and low attention threshold to rules. And, you know, what army are you going to bring to the table?
Well, I don't think I've ever taken my Stardrake to Warhammer World.
Right.
It's quite difficult to transport, actually, because of its really large wingspan, especially on a train.
Yeah.
So I think I may have a transport solution in mind, though.
A box?
So it will be some kind of box, yes.
What about a box with a strap on it that can go around your head? And like it's like one of them cake box things, you know? There you go.
I'm not sure about that one. If you remember last time we went to Warhammer World, I brought my Stormcast in an old biscuit tin.
Yeah.
I was magnetized to the sides of it.
Speaking of storage solutions, Andy, I did take a picture of my new transportation technique.
Is it a plastic bag?
No, I took a picture, sent it you.
Did you?
Yeah.
Hold on, let me have a look at this.
You're going to love this. I won't quite call it $1 million idea, but it's like definitely, you know, a Remington on a budget, transport your miniatures safely.
Oh, I've got it. I'm going to have to show the people this.
Yeah, do it.
This is truly revolutionary.
But you need to go and have a Chinese takeaway first.
Right. Let's see what the people think of this, shall we? There we go. The Remington transport solution for miniatures.
How about that? Yeah, it's almost, you know, it's always going to cost you nothing to keep your miniatures nice and warm, safe. And
well, you and I may have a slightly different definition of the word safe, because it looks like they're still rubbing up against each other quite a lot.
Yeah, it don't matter.
They're rubbing up against slightly less of each other. Yeah. I'll give you that.
Yeah. Unless someone turns that upside down, right, or rattles it around like an idiot,
or drives quickly over speed bumps.
Well, yes, there could be that.
Apart from things that you may actually do, then what could go wrong?
Yeah, and like when you finish a game, when you know, when the unit's dead, just simply put it in its Chinese takeaway tray and then put it back in your storage unit box.
I think you're giving Skeleton Flower a heart attack with how terrible this idea is. Yeah, people are really not in favour of this if you have a quick look at the chat there.
Oh, Well, zoom in a bit, Andy. Look, what's so bad about that? Manticore, totally fine on its own there. Blackguard, like peas in a pod there, lovely. Cauldron of Blood, Blood Rack Shrine, it looks great.
Bazooka J Rambo says, put some bubble wrap in there.
Yeah, but the problem with that is because elves, they've got loads of these spiky bits sticking out of them. It's sort of, they poke into the bubble wrap and get caught on it.
Well, why don't you get some of the foam trays that you buy in, or that you can buy in these cases? You can just buy the foam separately, and then you could just stand up an elf in each section of foam.
Yeah, that could work, but I'm just saying, this is like a free way of transporting your miniatures safely.
It's not a paint chip free way of doing it, though, is it?
Well, if they're plastic, they don't really chip.
Yeah, plastic is difficult to chip. You could probably throw a plastic Space Marine at a wall and not take any paint off it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't, I don't water down my paints when I put them on, so my paints go thick on anyway, so they don't scratch off so easily.
But even then, you're running a risk. You're playing a very dangerous game here. It's not as dangerous as when you've got your metal wood elves just rattling around in a plastic bag, rubbing elbows with each other. It's a step up, but I still think you've got a way to go. How about this, folks? I would suggest everyone go over to the Andy and Rim Show Facebook group and post pictures of your miniature storage solutions and transport solutions to give Remington some idea of how he should be doing things, because I don't think this can go on much longer. The people are outraged. Let's give him a bit of an education, shall we?
Well, could that be the army that sees off your character and overlords once and for all? Or...
I wouldn't say once and for all. They're not going anywhere.
Well, yeah. I'm split for choice. Do I take them, or do I take my newly painted free wheel devoted to Sigmar, or do I take my trusty Savage Orcs, or do I take my undefeated Ogres, or do I take the old trusty Beastmen, or do I take my Orcs and Goblins with the newly souped up Squid Gobber?
Also, while we're at it, if anyone is going to be in the vicinity of Warhammer World over the next couple of weeks, then let us know.
Yeah, let us know. It could be RemCon number 3.
It could be Andy Palooza number 3.
Well, I don't think there's been a 1 or 2, to be fair. So actually, it would be Andy Palooza number 1. But yeah, RemCon is getting bigger year on year. First RemCon ever was just me and Andy. And the second one was Vincent Venturella came all the way from America to stay at my place for RemCon number 2.
Specifically for RemCon, that's the only reason he travelled.
Pretty much. And he wasn't disappointed. And so, yeah, every year RemCon happens. This could be your lucky year, Andy.
It could be. Andy Palooza, not RemCon. As we know, the people... You hear the teeming masses when you're in Warhammer World, trying to get in through the doors. Of course, the security stop them coming in when we're there, because we specifically request that we don't want people crowding around our table.
Yeah.
And if you look out into those masses and listen to their chants, the signs they're holding up, they don't say Remington on. They say Andy.
Do they?
Yes, they do. I'll allow everyone else to speculate on what the other words on the sign are.
Well, we're going to have Rob Stimes, ex Warhammer, Warhammer legend. He's up for coming on the show, and I'm going to specifically ask him if he ever saw the most wanted list up. It was all like, don't let this guy in, and then a picture of various like nerds. And I'm pretty sure there was one that says, ignore this guy at all costs. And it was a picture of an oranged figure who's taller in real life and is from Manchester. I'm pretty sure that he will not confirm that rumour.
I think he will strongly deny it.
All I'll say is, Andy, is refer back to the picture I took of your big entrance into Bugman's bar.
After we'd ordered all the peasants out so we could eat in peace.
Yeah. Come and look us up. We'll announce what day we're gonna be down there. It should be a fun day.
It should. And how long have we been going now? Almost an hour and a half. Now, we were thinking of doing some kind of witch coven first episode here.
Yeah, look, let's just make it a quick one.
I think we could possibly save that for next time and maybe do another show in a couple of weeks. So even if there's no serious news, you would at least get some juicy witch coven action.
Yeah, we could do that.
We may try and get a guest on as well and make it like a little party adventure.
That'd be cool. Any guests who want to come on, we'll probably make you sing. Just be aware.
Yeah, you probably have to be willing to sing, but we have made exceptions in the past for people that were really opposed.
Now, Andy, you told me you had sorted out what the hell is that? Is that?
I said I may sort one out.
Right.
And that means that I haven't sorted one out.
Oh, well, if you're new to the show, well, what the hell is that? Is an original idea of mine. We show you a small portion of a figure and you have to guess what it is. And basically, it got ripped off, this idea, and now it's commonly used all over the internet by GW. So they kind of stole our thunder a little bit there, but it sounds silly now, doesn't it? Sounds silly. Sounds like I've got a chip on my shoulder. But go back on Andy's channel. Right, and look at those old ones. That's Warhammer Gold for you right here, created right here by these.
I do think what the hell is that became a little too complex at some point though.
Yeah.
We were cramming in like the toenails from 8 different miniatures onto the foot of someone standing in the street and expecting people to identify them.
I think that's when we cottoned on that people don't actually watch the show. It's just background noise while they're painting.
Or while they're chatting amongst themselves.
Yeah. I mean, look, if you're watching this after it's been shot, let me just give you an example of some of the stuff that's in the chat. Andrew Wade, I just took the rubbish out and realised too late I was only in underwear. Skeleton Flower, spooning is better, even though I hate have people close to me.
Are those two things related?
I don't know. I've just jumped right into the chat there, but that's the sort of stuff that people talk about while we're talking about what very serious gaming matters.
Occasionally they will discuss what we're talking about and give their thoughts on it, and that's usually the time when I will refer to the chat and tell you what they've said. But the rest of the time, it does take on a life of its own. And there is a very good reason. You may see on some channels how they'll actually have the chat on the side of the screen so everyone can see it even after the show. But there is a very good reason I don't do that.
Yeah.
And it's because I don't trust the human race that much.
And after the show's finished, there's even like an after show party, isn't there? Which is sort of, I don't think it's official because it's not in the Wren Castle, but it's sort of like the unofficial, basically Mickey Genva.
Yeah, when the show's finished, you do have a few minutes that you can still chat away in there.
Yeah.
Which is, of course, when all the good stuff comes out, no doubt. Well, it's been another emotional return after another month with no show. And I assume that if we try and get that game in at Warhammer World over the next couple of weeks and then do a show immediately after that, so we'll definitely have something to talk about, even if nothing else has dropped. And one would think that there will be some new Dark Aelf revelations popping up by then.
When do you think that stuff will come out then?
It can't be that long, can it, if they're already putting out trailers?
Yeah. What would you say, March?
Maybe.
Or April, new tax year?
Before we wrap this one up, did you see the pictures of that new squat model?
No, I don't think so. Is it just one model?
It's just one squat as a mercenary type for Necromunda. So the squat do still exist in the Warhammer 40,000 universe, even though they were wiped out decades ago.
Were they literally wiped out? Like in the lore?
I think in the lore, the Tyranids ate them all.
For real?
Yes.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Yeah, if I had to do a 40k army, it would either be orcs or it would be squats. Yeah, they sound cool.
So that could be something that could drag you into it then, if
Yeah.
there's a full squat army on the horizon.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. I think it's time we wrapped up the show, right?
It is on that bombshell.
I'm pretty sure it's your turn to sing out the ending.
I'm pretty sure it's not, because I did a song definitely last
That's a
time.
lie. That's a lie. I was singing what was in the chat on our last show.
That's not entirely true, because I did a song first, and then you did a song based on what was popping up in the chat. So I believe this time it is your turn, and you've prepared for us a wonderfully spooky witch elf themed song.
Okay.
Perhaps with a humorous twist, or maybe you've not planned it out at all and you're just going to make one up on the fly.
I don't plan my music. It just comes out naturally.
Neither do I, actually.
Do you know what? You know, I come across as this sort of like, you know, fountain of knowledge and wisdom, and it all goes to pot when I have to sing on this show, doesn't it? It's just humiliation every week. This is why. Right, okay. You ready?
The audience is ready, but before you start, I would like to tell them, of course, thanks for joining us, everybody. Don't forget to check out the Facebook group linked below, and check out all the other links in the video description while you're there as well. Maybe even Rem's channel, although I don't think there's been a new video on there for about 2 years.
Yeah, but you'll find there's only over 50 videos in there of awesome content, which needs to be looked through very carefully. It's more than a lifetime's worth of knowledge, right?
You should go on there and encourage him to bring back Remington's Pillow Talk series.
Very popular, that was. Okay, I've no idea what I'm going to sing, right? But the topic is Witch Coven. And if you type anything into the chat, I will sing it, even if it doesn't make sense. Okay?
As long as it's PG rated.
Oh, God. All right, here we go then. I'm going electric as well.
Uh-oh.
Okay, here we go. Have a great week, everyone. It's coming. Watch them all, Rem. Time for more pillow talk. See you in 4 months' time. We want pillow talk. Witch Coven, they have a gas oven. Kazoo. Witch Coven. Ding ding and then a little dong. Pixelated boobs, that's PG, right? Pixelated boob tonight. With bagpipes all over your face. Let's go dark. Muffins are fun.